feminism, patriarchy, manosphere, a girl's girl, girl boss, alpha male, blue pill, red pill, podcasts. If these words leave you feeling a bit sad, frustrated, hopeless, if they evoke any other emotion or reaction other than "what's that?", then this video is for you. But don't lose hope just yet, because by the end of this video, you'll be leaving more encouraged than you came in. And for that service that I'm offering humanity, remember to like and subscribe to get my grandmother some dentures. I really struggled to pick a title for this video. I was trying to convey the concept of middle ground, and so my first thought was the gray pill. Because when an argument is polarized, we say it's either black or white. And so I thought the middle of that is gray. But then I realized I'll just be adding another color to an already saturated discography, because recently I've heard that there's the pink pill and the black pill and the white pill, and who knows what other pills are available on the market. And I was not okay with saturating the market even more, because I feel it represented how we treat arguments. We throw away everything that came before it, instead of picking what is useful, then subtracting what is useless, and then adding on to make it better. So I figured if I was going to add another color anyway, at least it would be something that would represent these beliefs. And so I decided to go with the purple pill. Hear me out. This is because this all started with the blue and the red pill, and when you mix them together, it creates purple. And then a while ago, I had come across this short, beautiful story. And before I even scripted this video or figured out the title, I knew from that moment that this story was a good summary of the concept that I was trying to convey. A wise teacher once brought balloons to school. She told her pupils to blow them and write their names on one. After the children tossed their balloons into the hole, the teacher moved through the hole, mixing them up. The kids were given 5 minutes to find the balloon with their name on it, but though they searched frantically, no one found their own balloon. Then the teacher told them to take the balloons closest to them and give it to the person whose name was on it. In less than 2 minutes, everyone was holding their own balloon. The teacher said, "These balloons are like happiness. We can't find it when we're only searching for our own, but if we can help someone else's happiness, it will ultimately help us find our own." That story is one of the big reasons that sparked this whole entire video. But before we get into the purple pill, let's discuss its inspiration, the blue and the red pill. In the first episode of the film trilogy The Matrix, lead character Neo was given the option of taking the red pill, which would enable him to actually understand what was occurring outside the illusion created by the Matrix, or a blue pill, which would allow him to return to experiencing only the illusion. I'm neither smart nor informed on the topic or the film. I just googled it. So basically, those who take the red pill are enlightened and they know the truths that are actually going on in the world, while those who take the blue pill are living in an illusion that has been created by governments and entities to be trapped and be involved in a pointless rat race, which only benefits the Matrix or the top dogs or the powers that be. Something I find interesting is that there is this notion that those who know the reality of what is going on are somewhat better than those who choose to live in an illusion, which I find quite sad and also lacking in observation, because most things that make life worth living are built around illusions. And may I add that when I talk about reality versus illusion, or red pill versus blue pill, I mean things that have either been proven or not proven. Take, for instance, religion. It is comforting and encouraging to most who willingly follow it. And it helps people cope with one of the worst experiences of life, which is death and loss. And yet, by standards of what has been proven, it is complete mind tricks. Matrix. And one that most of us believe is that if we keep trying, we'll succeed, which is simply survivor's bias. If I am logistically in an area where diamonds do not occur, no matter how much I dig, I will not find a diamond. It is completely an illusion, but because we believe it so much, it becomes true in different ways. Because we are looking for something of value in the dig, we'll either find other valuable minerals like sapphire or rubies, and if it's not minerals, we'll find something like water. And if there is no physical mineral value, then we'll start looking for things that are more spiritual or mental or biological. For instance, you'll hear people say they gained resilience or patience or muscle from the experience. But if we want to be realistic, true red pill is realizing that there is no point to life. No one has a purpose except to procreate. The point of life is simply to create more life, to sustain a species, a continuous pointless transfer of energy from one form to the next. How How incredibly depressing. Is it worth it to know the depressing truth about a system you have to live by and cannot escape? Or is it better to be somewhat delusional and yet be happy and at peace? I'm genuinely asking. You guys let me know down in the comments below. So the Red Pill, which was a movement about enlightenment, quickly became a response or a retaliation to feminism, just as feminism was a retaliation to patriarchy. And the loudest voices of both movements right now have become questionable, in the sense that they have both resorted to dehumanizing the other side. As per usual, or according to script, I was about to say we've lost a time when we used to be good to each other, you know, the good old days. But sadly, those days on a macro cultural level have never existed. The good old days were bad for women, and the new days are apparently becoming bad for men. Women were often financially, emotionally, and physically abused, and they had no escape, with their entire identities being tied to a man. Because of this, they could rarely report what was happening to them, and a significant amount of women resorted to making themselves voluntary widows, if you know what I mean. And today, men feel like they no longer have a purpose. They are lonelier than ever. They are dropping out of college at alarming rates. They feel neglected by society, and unaliving rates are higher than ever. When it comes to the relationship between men and women, it seems society has always had a problem finding the balance between interdependence and dependence. I often hear people asking, what has changed in the relationship between men and women? And the answer is nothing. In fact, roles have remained quite the same. And that's the problem. People always wonder how their grandparents or some of their parents stayed so long in marriage. And yet we are having marriages as short as 2 months. Others think it's because we are not adhering to our specific gender roles. Others think it's because we are impatient, intolerable, and intolerant, demanding. But one thing people never address is relationship inflation. Inflation is the general and progressive increase in price, or the progressive decrease in the value of money. For example, if 10 years ago $1 could buy 1 bottle of milk, today you need $3 to buy the same bottle of milk. And this decrease in the value of money over time is what makes an economy function, because it makes people willing to participate. We are wired to want to profit from participation. So knowing that my investment today is going to triple in 10 years makes me more willing to participate, because if I don't invest it in the economy and decide to keep it, it will lose value. Investing is simply buying the life you have now for the future, because the life you have now costs 3 times more in the future. But the thing is, inflation doesn't only happen with money. It happens in farming, in the job market, and even in today's focus, which is relationships. Take, for instance, in farming, old farming practices have lost value because they will not produce the equivalent results as before to satisfy the population. This is because weather patterns have changed, the population has increased, and the markets to satisfy have become larger. If we have to rely on good old GMO-free organic farming, food production would be low, costs of food would skyrocket, and we would probably go into a famine. Now we go to the job market. At some point, all you needed to land a good job was a GED or a grade 12 certificate. But now, to have a simple entry-level job, you need minimum a degree. And getting an okay job is starting to require a master's. And in the not so distant future, PhDs will become so common. And what will be attractive in the job market is having multiple degrees, PhDs, and masters. In every field, over time, qualifications increase in order to satisfy the same role. But for some reason, this is a concept that we refuse to accept when it comes to the roles in relationships. Every condition in the dating climate has changed, but people still demand organic produce. And just like in the world of farming, traditional relationships, just like organic foods, are reserved for those who can afford it. The rest of the population has to survive on GMOs or modern relationships. What does a traditional home look like? It's a full-time working father and a stay-at-home wife and mother. They live in a beautiful 3-bedroomed house behind a white picket fence. It looks and sounds quite wholesome and attractive to some. Traditional relationships had clear and minimal qualifications to fill the role of husband or wife. And this made it that, limited to the household, they needed each other to function. Men brought in the money and women managed the home. very clear. Except that structure is almost unattainable and unrealistic for the dating market today. The prices of goods have increased, but the salaries have not increased to match. That means in today's world, rarely is one income enough to sustain a full household. Also, in today's world, men and women have equal opportunities to work and get paid. So when it comes to employment in a household, about 60% of homes with children and both spouses or partners, both partners were employed. But despite this really huge shift, men and women are still expected to adhere to their traditional roles. Men are expected to be the sole breadwinners, even though they are not able to. And women, despite bringing in income, are still expected to fulfill their domestic roles. Because of this, divorce rates are high, and the amount of people that are choosing to abstain from marriage and union altogether is skyrocketing. Men are finding it harder to get to the financial level that they're expected to be to get into a relationship. And when they do get here, they realize that income is the bare minimum. They lack basic human survival skills, which they were not taught. On the other hand, women initiate 70% of divorces and are choosing to abstain from marriage altogether. This is because they carry the heavier load of the marriage. The mental, physical, and emotional toll of the overburdening responsibilities is a major contributing factor when women are considering divorce. The institution of marriage is no longer attractive because it seemingly has ceased to provide necessity and profit. The concept is seeming to give more stress than it's worth. Gender roles were not made for enjoyment, happiness, or fulfillment. In their time, they were made for function and order to suit society at the time. I've heard many people say they are so happy and fulfilled with their traditional roles, which is great, by the way, but it has nothing to do with the reason gender roles came to be. Your happiness is just a fortunate and related coincidence. We've come to a point where there has to be more of an incentive to stay in a union rather than survival, because our society has evolved to a point where everyone can survive on their own. Biological makeup is no longer a necessity when it comes to earning a living, and other societies like South Korea have come to a point where women can walk outside alone at night. If that is not a flex, I don't know what is. So even the concept of protection in the near future will become almost unnecessary. Also, financial independence is a concept that is attractive to everyone. Even well-kept children want to be financially independent of their parents. There is a saying that goes, "He who feeds you controls you." And for how much each of us love freedom, I think it goes without saying that the option to be financially independent is not one that society will give up. We've come to a point where things like sharing duties, consideration, romance, emotional availability, loyalty, and fulfillment, these things are no longer just wants or bonuses, but necessary incentives and qualifications in order to make today's relationship thrive. Attraction itself is biological, but things like love and romance, these are very middle-class concepts. They have been beautifully represented in media and have been adopted by society to incentivize staying in a union or even getting into one. On a surface level, it is to make profit from us by buying into the concept with things like Valentine's Day and anniversaries, but it is also to promote procreation so as to keep our societies and economies functional. Traditional roles in modern low and middle class relationships, which is the largest demographic for relationships and marriage and reproduction, is more harmful than it is helpful. This is because it is not functional. At the end of the day, the reason we promote unions and marriage is so that we can have a healthy birth rate and also healthy homes for those children to grow up in, so that they can become contributing members to the workforce and to society and to the economy. And that helps our economies to not crash. So if we are able to make a made-up concept like love and romance seem like it is only natural and necessary in order for functionality, it means we are capable of making concepts that are valuable and functional in today's market also necessary. Unlike other pills, what sets the purple pill apart is that it is not a movement. And that is what makes it the best pill. When people like MLK and Nelson Mandela were fighting for civil rights and equal rights, they were looking to change the mindsets of entire societies. And the sad truth that they had to accept is that they most likely would not be able to see that change in their lifetime. But we are living in the world that they fought for, a world where you can almost be anything. That's why the purple pill is more of a personal philosophy that almost guarantees you your own little fairy tale. So is there a possibility of roles being functional and fulfilling at the same time? Yes, but it doesn't happen on a cultural level, but rather on individual relationships. Why? Fulfillment in any relationship requires personal tweaking because everyone is somewhat unique in the combination of conditions that makes their happiness. So for this to work, it starts with having the courage to let go of the comfortable, which is traditional roles. And I know that can be quite scary because familiarity is safety, but it can be done in a healthy way through subtraction and integration. This simply means being willing to communicate and adjust accordingly. A purple pill relationship visually can look like a traditional relationship or it can look like a modern relationship, but it is not how it looks that is important. It is why the setup came to be. It's arranged according to strengths and capabilities rather than dictations by society or culture. Everyone involved is playing according to their strengths, their preferences, their availability, and their functionality. So basically, everyone's life or relationship does not need to look like yours in order for you to feel fulfilled or happy or satisfied. I don't believe with the possibilities of today's world that people should die without seeing a good portion of their happily ever after. In summary, or in conclusion, the purple pill is about being considerate of one another and being the best versions of ourselves so that we can add our strengths to the team to make it better. So at the end of these types of videos, I'll be giving a recommendation of a piece of content that represents the concept well, and each one of us can do so in the comments below. So my movie recommendation for today's concept is a movie titled All My Life. It's a tragically beautiful story about a couple and it is based on real life. As they moved in the world and lived together, their roles were not based on gender or culture. They were based on their individual strengths. And they talked everything through from tough life decisions all the way to what pets were acceptable and not acceptable. And they were also incredibly considerate and supportive of one another's dreams and goals and aspirations for life. For instance, the girl suggested the guy move in with her so that they can save up money and he can pursue his passion of being a chef. And he was enduring this terrible job because he was thinking about their future together and did not want to jeopardize that. 10 out of 10 would 100% recommend. So every time you feel discouraged by the world, remember that for the most part, you are capable of creating and living in your own little fairy tale or your own happily ever after. Yeah guys, so as always, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe in order to get my grandmother some dentures, and I will see you in the next one.